This dude signed for $700 million. $700 million. Hey, he is going to be the highest paid athlete in the history of American sport. We think he can speak English. He can probably speak perfect English, but he's always gone through an interpreter. And the funny part about the interpreter was, and Jay Stu and I can attest to this, we talked about what a sweet job, right? Like Ohtani seems like a good dude, a regular dude. We know he can speak some English. And you just get to hang out in the clubhouse like all year long. You go city to city. You don't have to get ready to play. You can kind of do whatever. It's a money job. It's an incredible job. Like, how do I get that job? And then we were doing that. How much do you think the interpreter makes? What do you think he does? Now we find out that Shohei Ohtani's married. No one knew he was married. Then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, hey, by the way, I'm married. She's a normal Japanese woman. Turns out she's like a basketball star. So you have a player who's his whole personal life is crowded in secrecy. We don't know about the language he speaks. We do know that he's an awesome player when healthy. We don't really know if he's ever going to pitch again or if he just got $700 million to pretend like he was going to pitch again and just be the greatest hitter we've ever seen. And now we have a story on, basically the brink of what should be an amazing baseball season led by the LA Dodgers. And just as a side note, signing a guy to a giant contract who, one, is injured, and two, apparently somebody, either him or his interpreter, had a $4.5 million gambling debt. That sounds like he signed with the Angels, not from the Angels to the Dodgers. All of us, the few of us Angel fans out there are going like, oh, we dodged a bullet with that one. Because there's no doubt, if he was an Angel right now, he'd be under hardcore Major League Baseball investigation and probably going to jail. I may be overinflating that a little bit. But let me get the timeline of events correct, okay? The story comes out and the interpreter is fired, and the first remarks we get are, hey, here's the thing. I had a big gambling debt. It's all me, and Shohei's the greatest guy ever. He's paying off my gambling debt. That's what happened. Then it turns out that that's not the story. The story we're now being fed is that Shohei didn't know this money was coming out of his account, and all that money was stolen to pay off this gambling debt. Now, again, I don't know how you track your money, and I do know that he's going to make $700 million, but I also know he has not made huge money, at least stateside, either on endorsement deals or his contract. He's got money, and I'm sure he makes a bunch back home. But when $4.5 million are missing, and then there's video of the two of them in the dugout in South Korea after the interpreter had apparently told the team, the Dodgers, whatever version had happened, and then they're yucking up. Like, I don't know about you, but as somebody who's stolen from other people before, widely known story, you can feel free to Google. I spoke to all three of those people. And remember, this was a credit card. The total sales were like $900. And all of them were pissed. And it wasn't even their money. It was their parents paying off their credit card bill. Imagine if somebody steals $4.5 million from you. You can be yucking up with him in the clubhouse? It doesn't make any sense. What does make sense? I mean, I think it's all of us, right? Like, Shohei likes to gamble. He's got a vice. He's got time on his hands. He knew he had $700 million coming. $4.5 million to him is a lot of money. Oh, man, how are we going to pay this off without anybody knowing? The interpreter takes the fall. Because as Chris Carter, the Hall of Famer, former Fox employee, once said, you got to have a fall guy in the crew. If y'all
got a crew, you got to have a fall guy.
Yeah, you got to have a fall guy in the crew. No truer, smarter words have ever been uttered. And we want to talk about Purdue beating Utah State by 40? Or how many Big East teams should get in? Stop it. I love basketball. I love March Madness. The games were fun. I love covering it. Shohei Ohtani signed the biggest contract in the history of Earth. And dude might have a massive gambling problem. And oh yeah, here's the other thing. And I don't know if he gambles or don't know if he gambles. Here's the other thing. guys that have a gambling problem, they don't just stop gambling. It's an addiction. It's a real thing. And, I don't know what Major League Baseball knows or doesn't know, or if there's a cover-up, or if this is a legit story. Those stories seem hard to believe. But again, sometimes the truth is hard to believe. But if we look at the reality to it, everybody is all in on Shohei Ohtani. He's with the Dodgers. The Dodgers got to get to and win the World Series. He's got to save the sport. He promotes internationally. That's why they just played in South Korea. Like, the whole thing all works, but it only works if that dude's on the field. It doesn't work if that dude's suspended for gambling. And I want to make sure this is clear. I know nothing. No one has pulled me aside. I'm just reading these stories like, well, that doesn't make sense. And the other thing about when guys change their story and the interpreter changed his story is when we change your story now, like, we don't believe anything you say. Buyer, do you have any idea? Like this, I don't know. To me, this story, and they kind of nailed it in timing of it, right? It was like a news dump Friday. And then, oh, yeah, by the way, we have the NCAA tournament. And, baseball is getting ready to start, but it's not. They had the soft launch of the baseball season with them playing. I feel like this is a giant story that's being covered, but part of it is we don't know. Part of it is he's already kind of a mysterious figure, and part of it is it's getting overshadowed because you got March Madness, which is kind of like a national holiday.
I would push back on that and say, because it didn't come out on Friday, it actually came out on Wednesday afternoon. But in terms of the NCAA tournament taking over, yes. However, I just don't think it's, the Kim Mulkey story, I think, is perfect timing. Like, these stories happen around when these events take place. And I think that with the situation with the Dodgers in Major League Baseball, it's awful timing because opening day is Thursday. And no one is talking about what is going to happen on Thursday. And can the Rangers repeat? And can the Dodgers get to the World Series with Shohei Ohtani? Instead, this is the only thing that right now is being talked about in baseball. Do you believe the story that the interpreter had the gambling debt and it was paid off with Shohei's? No, I think very few people believe that. It just seems to be to have that sort of money be taken from your account, to have the different stories, to see them in the dugout on Wednesday in South Korea as if nothing happened, knowing that the interpreter spoke with people on Tuesday about the situation. Yeah, it doesn't add up.
Jason Stewart, our resident Dodger fanatic. What do you think?
I completely remove myself from this as a fan because this has nothing to do with the Dodgers. I think the reason why this should be a bigger deal than it's being made, and you could argue, I think Dan has a point. I think in baseball it's a big deal. But as far as nationally, and we check the front of ESPN.com and SI.com and all those sites on Thursday last week, and it wasn't even on the front page. It's mysterious how much it's not being covered.
And the point that because we were in for you, Doug, the point about that was I felt that the entities were trying to cover it up because ESPN has obviously an investment in Major League Baseball, and there was nothing there. It seemed like maybe that, Major League Baseball's attempt to squash. Sorry to interrupt. But.
And how about this? How about ESPN.com, sponsored by FanDuel, refuses to cover a major gambling story? Everybody's kind of compromised in all this, so I don't know how much truth we're ever going to get with this, but I think it's a massive deal, not because he may or may not have bet on baseball up to now. I just think it's because you have the most popular person in your sport maybe put in a position to be leveraged for $4.5 million. And what would he possibly do to get out of a hole if he had to?